Most people think repair bills are normal as a Ford ages. But most of the time it's not wear, it's habits and settings that stack heat and load every day. The scary part is it's predictable and preventable. The car will show you immediately high idle that won't settle, a fan surge, or a quick light dip right after start. In this video, I'll keep this practical, 10 numbered habits, each ending with what to do and how often. We'll cover startup load, heat, drag, software drift, moisture damage, braking balance, and quick pre-failure checks. Watch all the way through because near the end I'll run the 5-minute weekly loop, a simple ritual that ties every check into a repeatable reset. Number 10, the startup load mismanagement. Start the engine, keep the brake held, and wait for the idle to step down before selecting gear. Most drivers treat startup as dead time and shift immediately, assuming nothing meaningful happens until the wheels move. That stacks load while cold oil is thick and electrical demand spikes. So parts take stress before lubrication stabilizes. You'll notice mismanagement when idle stays elevated longer than usual. The fan surges early or the lights briefly dim as systems wake together. In extreme cold or after a remote start, the pause can be shorter, but the goal stays the same. Let the initial surge pass before you ask for torque. Start the engine, keep accessories off, wait for the idle to drop, then move smoothly without heavy throttle. Those seconds reduce wasted energy at every drive, adding hours of gentler operation and extending component life across years. Remote start warm-ups, extreme cold, or trims that manage loads automatically can shorten the pause safely. Treat startup as a sequence, not a moment, because repeated surges compound into fatigue long before failures announce themselves. Cold starts happen every drive, making this habit the earliest leverage point for longevity and savings. As minutes turn into months, attention shifts from startup stress to what your eyes register once motion begins. That progression matters because perception delays quietly tax reaction time even when hardware remains healthy. Visibility calibration sits right after ignition in the chain, revealing how small delays reshape every decision behind the wheel. Once movement starts, the system shifts from managing energy to managing information, and that handoff sets the tone for safety. Correcting what happens before motion makes the next check easier to see because clarity depends on what the car shows you. That shift leads naturally into visibility, where reaction time is first shaped. Number 9, the driver visibility calibration. Treat visibility like an instrument panel and correct mirrors, glass, and beam alignment before motion begins. Many drivers equate seeing with safety, assuming that if the road looks visible, reaction time is protected. Small visual distortions delay perception, stretching the time between hazard appearance and response. You can spot miscalibration when glare blooms at night, mirrors require constant readjustment, or lane edges feel vague despite dry pavement. Clean glass inside and out, align mirrors once per season, and verify headlight aim against a flat surface before regular driving. Those adjustments cost almost no time, yet even a half-second of delayed recognition multiplies stopping distance and stress across daily trips. There are limits to calibration, since heavy rain, fog, worn wipers, or aging lenses can restrict clarity regardless of alignment. Visibility does not wear parts directly, yet it reshapes every choice the driver makes once motion begins. Poor perception encourages late braking, abrupt steering, and reliance on assist, quietly shifting strain elsewhere in the system. Reaction time lost here is paid later in tension, near misses, and compensatory inputs that feel normal until fatigue sets in. Treat visibility as a maintained interface, not a fixed trait granted at purchase. As blind spots fade, attention moves from what the eyes miss to how the vehicle behaves before reaching full operating warmth. That handoff draws focus toward temperature behavior during early movement, where unseen friction starts its work. Cold operation quietly determines longevity, preparing the stage for thermal checks that follow. Once motion exposes hidden stress patterns ahead now. Number 8, the cold phase. Thermal wear. Early operation exposes whether warmth is real or only assumed long before gauges tell the truth. Many owners trust simplified gauges, believing the needle sitting calm means metal, oil, and seals are ready. Cold oil flows slowly, clearances are tight, and friction spikes until heat stabilizes. You can spot early thermal stress when idle stays high, shifts feel stiff, or heat output lags despite driving. Drive gently, avoid heavy throttle, and let temperature rise smoothly before demanding power. Those early minutes matter because repeated cold strain shortens oil life and hardens seals across thousands of starts. Over a year, seconds of restraint preserve hours of lubrication quality and delay costly leaks or consumption. Extreme cold hybrid cycles or powertrains with active warm-up strategies may alter timing safely. Still, relying on a dummy gauge hides the vulnerable window where damage accumulates quietly. Cold phase wear rarely triggers warnings, yet it sets the baseline for efficiency, noise, and longevity. Treat warm-up as a phase, not a moment, because behavior before stability defines how the system ages. Each cold start steals a trace of protection, and multiplied across seasons it becomes measurable wear rather than theory, turning routine trips into accelerated aging that never appears on service screens until symptoms arrive late and expensive repairs follow without clear cause or warning beforehand at all. Once temperature settles, attention naturally shifts from heat to how motion distributes load through the vehicle. That progression moves focus outward toward rolling forces that begin draining energy the instant tires turn. If this breakdown is helping you protect your Ford long term, like the video and subscribe for more prevention first guides. Share your experience below and tell me which habit surprised you most. Number 7, the rolling resistance drift. The first release from a stop reveals more about rolling friction than any warning light ever will. Many drivers wait for warning lights, assuming no alert means rolling resistance is normal. Underinflation or imbalance increases friction, forcing the engine to work harder every mile. You can spot drift when steering feels heavy, the car coasts poorly, or fuel economy drops without a clear cause. Verify pressures monthly, adjust for load, and correct alignment before wear patterns set in. That habit prevents uneven tread loss and saves fuel quietly, tank after tank, across the year. A few pounds low at each corner can bleed range and money long before sensors complain. There are guardrails, since off-road terrain, cargo weight, or seasonal tires legitimately change rolling behavior. Ignoring those contexts leads to false corrections. So, evaluate conditions before adjustments. Rolling resistance never feels dramatic, which is why it drains value invisibly. Left unchecked, this slow drag compounds daily, turning minor neglect into measurable expense without drama, warning, or noise. A quiet leak that owners rarely connect to tires until receipts pile up unexpectedly over months of normal driving. Every rotation steals a trace of energy, multiplied across millions of turns until replacement arrives early. Viewed at scale, small pressure errors become hours of wasted engine effort and shorten tire life. Addressing friction here stabilizes efficiency, preparing the system for more complex interventions ahead. Once rolling balance is controlled, attention shifts from contact with the road to how software begins smoothing driver input as speeds rise. Number 6, the driver assist overcorrection. At low speed, allow steering assistance to reveal how much correction it is quietly applying. Many drivers trust assistance as protection, assuming software prevents wear rather than reshaping it. Smoothing masks abrupt inputs, letting small errors repeat without feedback. You can spot overcorrection when the wheel tugs often, vibrations appear late, or steering feels calm while fatigue builds. Reduce assist intensity, keep alerts active, and let small corrections teach timing rather than hiding mistakes. That adjustment lowers stress on steering components and trims mental load during long drives. Comfort today carries a price later, as constant micro-corrections fatigue racks motors and joints across years. Safety-critical moments, poor markings, or high winds justify stronger intervention without hesitation. Outside those conditions, relying on heavy smoothing erodes skill and transfers wear downstream. When software leads, hardware follows, absorbing force the driver never feels. Reclaiming control here resets the handoff between human and system. From that point, attention moves inward toward digital states that quietly drift with time. Those invisible changes shape delays, glitches, and resets, leading directly into control module behavior worth checking. These systems age through cycles, not mileage, storing tiny errors until responses lag. Over months, that lag steals seconds of reaction and hours of attention, compounding stress that feels normal because it arrives gradually. Recognizing this pattern early prevents reliance on silent correction, loops that grow heavier with every drive, preparing the ground for software checks ahead. Control settings evolve, and observing them early prevents time loss before deeper system drift emerges. Soon, number 5, the control module drift. Screen response speed exposes system health immediately. Before delays turn into habits, many owners treat glitches as harmless, assuming slow menus or frozen screens are isolated annoyances. Software states decay across cycles, stacking delays that spill into physical behavior. You can spot drift when screens lag, settings revert, or audio and cameras hesitate after startup. Restart affected systems periodically, clear temporary memory, and restore clean states before problems cascade. That habit saves hours, otherwise lost to waiting rooms, repeated explanations, and unnecessary visits spread across a year. Digital friction feels small, yet it quietly steals time every week until frustration becomes routine. There are guardrails here, since warning lights, fault codes, or persistent failures require proper diagnosis rather than resets. Ignoring true faults risks masking damage, so resets remain a maintenance step, not a cure. Control modules influence steering feel, camera timing, and climate response, turning software drift into tangible stress. Each delay invites compensation elsewhere, carrying consequences forward into mechanical strain. If this preventive approach resonates, subscribe to support methodical ownership that favors early checks over late repairs. As software steadies, attention shifts toward moisture and airflow, where the environment begins altering components silently. Those environmental factors create slow corrosion, trapped condensation, and electrical resistance long before smells, alerts, or visible signs appear, making climate behavior the next area worth examining. Paying attention early prevents minor dampness from becoming permanent damage, preserving comfort and function together. Awareness here protects wiring, interiors, sensors, and long-term reliability across seasons, miles, and years. Number 4, the moisture and climate damage. Airflow choices decide whether moisture clears or settles long before discomfort appears. Many owners prioritize comfort, assuming warm air and quiet fans are harmless choices. Trapped moisture condenses on cold surfaces, corroding contacts and weakening insulation. You can spot the problem when windows fog persistently, musty odors appear, or defrost takes longer than expected. Do this instead. Use defog briefly, keep fresh air engaged, and dry the cabin after wet trips. That habit preserves interior materials and wiring, extending lifespan measured in years rather than seasons. Left unmanaged, condensation works slowly, creating resistance that later triggers faults and brittle connectors. There are exceptions, since extreme cold, heavy rain, or constant recirculation demands may limit ideal airflow. Evaluate conditions honestly, adjusting habits without forcing settings that compromise safety or visibility. Moisture damage rarely announces itself, yet it permanently alters sensors, switches, and cabin comfort. Time spent drying the cabin prevents hours chasing intermittent electrical issues later. Once climate behavior is controlled, focus shifts toward how forces balance when slowing and stopping. That transition reveals load synchronization, where braking and weight transfer decide whether components wear evenly or fatigue early, setting up the next area to examine. Pay attention here because mismatched forces feel subtle at first, yet amplify stress with every stop, hill, and turn over time. Understanding this shift prepares the ground for examining braking balance without relying on warning lights. Subtle cues emerge before alerts, offering a narrow window for correction. Those cues guide attention toward controlled deceleration habits during daily driving cycles. Number 3, the load synchronization failure. A gentle early stop tells the truth about balance in a way alerts never announce. Many drivers assume balance is automatic, trusting systems to distribute load without attention. The mechanism is mechanical. Uneven force shifts stress across pads, rotors, and suspension joints. You can spot mismatch when braking feels grabby, the nose dives sharply, or stops require constant correction. Brake progressively, keep speeds reasonable before stops, and allow weight to settle evenly. That habit reduces uneven brake wear and preserves a wider safety margin during emergencies. Repeated imbalance accelerates fatigue, shortening service life measured in miles and money. There are exceptions since towing, steep grades, or loose terrain demand altered braking technique. In those cases, deliberate adjustment replaces smooth balance and higher wear becomes unavoidable. Ignoring context creates false reassurance because nothing alerts until components thin or heat builds. Load synchronization is felt, not flagged, making perception the primary diagnostic tool. Every abrupt stop compounds strain, stealing braking performance long before warning indicators appear. Over a year, small inconsistencies add up to extra shop visits and reduced confidence behind the wheel. Once deceleration feels predictable again, attention shifts toward deeper system visibility. That shift exposes early signals appearing before failure, preparing for monitoring access that follows. These signals arrive quietly, offering a narrow window to act before costs spike and margins shrink across daily use. Paying attention here restores honesty to feedback, replacing assumptions with sensation and preventing late surprises. That clarity leads naturally into deeper monitoring, where advanced notice becomes possible. Preparation matters. More information changes outcomes early every time driving. Number 2, the pre-failure visibility. Live data either moves with the system or it doesn't, and that difference matters early. Many owners wait for warning lights, assuming alerts appear before damage becomes serious. Systems record drift long before thresholds trigger lamps. You can spot early trouble when temperatures fluctuate, voltages sag, or values diverge without messages. Check available data briefly each week, noting trends rather than chasing single readings. That habit avoids diagnostic fees and wasted appointments by catching issues during the quiet window. Minutes spent observing save hours spent explaining symptoms that arrive too late. There are exceptions, since unsupported trims or basic clusters may lack detailed visibility. In those cases, observation shifts to behavior, sounds, and response timing. Warning lights are designed for liability, not preservation, which is why they arrive late. Pre-failure visibility restores time to decide rather than react. Across months, small deviations reveal patterns that lead directly to inexpensive fixes. Ignoring those signs collapses the gap between symptom and failure into a single event. As time compresses, choices narrow, forcing urgency where planning once existed. Seeing early allows calm scheduling, parts sourcing, and controlled intervention. That foresight protects budgets and margins while stress stays low. With advance notice established, attention consolidates into a repeatable habit. That habit binds all prior checks into a single loop, preparing the final step ahead. It sets the stage for a simple ritual that replaces reaction with routine and turns scattered checks into one system that quietly carries the vehicle through years of use without relying on alerts or last-minute decisions. Number 1, the ritual system. Preventive ownership begins when small checks are grouped into one repeatable loop. Most owners chase repairs after symptoms, believing maintenance happens only when something breaks. Small verified states prevent stress from stacking across systems. You can spot readiness when idle settles, glass is clear, values stabilize, and movement feels predictable. Repeat the ritual weekly, adding brief resets and pressure checks on a calm day. Those minutes compound, 5 minutes weekly becomes over 4 hours yearly, recovered from shops and stress. There is an exception. Short-term ownership or leased use may not return the full benefit. The ritual works like brushing teeth rather than emergency dentistry, removing plaque before pain demands drills. Reactive care waits for alarms. The ritual listens to whispers. Each pass binds earlier checks into one loop, keeping decisions early and inexpensive. Missed steps show up as creeping noise, rising fuel use, or subtle hesitation that feels normal until compared week to week. Treat the ritual as a checklist, not a mood, because consistency beats intensity when protecting machines built from tolerance and timing rather than luck. Skips invite drift. Completion creates feedback. Over months, the loop trains attention, revealing change early enough to act without urgency. That difference converts panic repairs into scheduled care. Time returns to the driver, costs flatten across ownership, stress fades from decisions, confidence replaces guesswork. Most early failures are not random. They grow from quiet stress, ignored signals, and habits repeated daily. Reduce harsh starts, manage heat, watch drift early, and keep the ritual simple. That is how a Ford stays tight, predictable, and affordable over decades. Subscribe to keep building this prevention mindset, because the next video dives deeper into the small decisions that quietly decide whether a vehicle ages gracefully or fails early long before warning lights appear, and expensive repairs become unavoidable.